Greetings, one and all. I'd like to thank those that have been doing donations through the thanks button that's on the videos. Thank you very much for all your donations. That's really appreciated. And love and hugs and kisses to you all. And thank you everybody else for watching as well. You know, I like doing these videos. I have fun doing them. It helps me to try and understand what it is that I'm doing with the Gurdjieff work. You know, as I've said in many videos, I'm not a teacher. I'm just here to continue passing on what I'm learning, and it helps me to figure out what I'm doing with the work. But I wanted to do a show today, continuing with Sophia Well-Beloved's book, Gurdjieff. And because it's like the Holy Week that I'm making this video in, the Holy Nights, I wanted to do one on grace. We'd all like a bit of grace from on high. How do we get grace? What is grace? You know, Gurdjieff talks about grace a lot, and I used to wonder what grace was. And it was explained to me by a priest a long time ago oh, you can't just develop grace in yourself. That's a gift from the divine source. Grace is bestowed upon one. You can be given grace if you are worthy. So I was looking up what Gurdjieff had to say about it. And then obviously I found it in Sophia Well-Beloved's books. I'm just going to read from her for a moment and then continue. So she writes, the central focus of Gurdjieff's oral and written teaching was on the demand that the pupil worked actively on himself, rather on the pupil's passive ability to receive help that might be termed grace. Now, this is one thing I do see with people in the Gurdjieff work. We all want to be taught by a teacher. It'd be wonderful if Mr. Gurdjieff himself could turn up and teach us what we need to know. But he's obviously in another realm at the moment, so we just have his books to learn from. And there are teachers out there. There are groups you can join and be part of, and we can learn from them. But we also have to do a lot of work ourselves. We have to do the inner pondering. We have to do the inner observation. So we are working upon ourselves. And I know many people want to be given everything on a platter. Here it is. Here are the answers. This is what you do. Here's my platter for you. But it's not as simple as that. We have to work upon ourselves. And I think the divine source looks for that, for people that are working, and then will send down help to you, which could be a form of grace. So let me continue with what Sophia Well-Beloved says. However, pupil memoirs testify to the help they received from Gurdjieff's presence, with Bennett writing of Sufi Baraka, an enabling energy analogous to Christian grace, as the key to making the teaching work. And I've done a few shows on J.G. Bennett, and I very much admire. He went, like I myself have, looking at all different faiths and teachers to see what we can learn from them. You know, I do a little bit of pick and mix now and then. But sometimes other teachers explain something that you learned from, let's pretend it was Gurdjieff, in another way that maybe when you learned it from Gurdjieff, it didn't make sense, but you can learn it from another teacher. There are developed people out there. I don't know if there's many of them around in modern day, but I definitely know in the time of Mr. Bennett, there seemed to be a lot of gurus and teachers one could go and visit who were in some way developed, maybe not necessarily to the, the man number 6 or number 7, but there were man number 4, 5, and 6 out there and women that we could go to and interact with and learn from. But then we don't make them our guru for life. We don't follow them around forever like a little lapdog. You know, at some point we have to break away and go on our own and continue developing our path ourselves. I don't think there's anything wrong with going back and forth between different paths. Though some people have said to me, you must stick to one path. Well, maybe that is for that person. But I learn a lot from different people, Rudolf Steiner, Gurdjieff. I'm actually going off Blavatsky a lot because the more I read of theosophy lately, I've been quite concerned of how the masters, the Mahatmas, seem to be talking a lot about the material world, and that's the important thing, where I very much believe there's more than one world and not just the material world. But I will do a show on that. That's me just going off topic a bit there. So I'm kind of poo-pooing theosophy at the moment. But it's what you believe in. Do you believe this is the one and only work realm? Or do you think there's other realms out there, like spiritual realms, astral realms, etheric realms, and ways to connect to the divine source? Is it just about living on this world for you? Or are you doing this work to help develop yourself so that, you know, you go further in your path, and after you've died, and we're developing our Keshjan bodies now so that we can perhaps use them as we live on this planet and walk on this planet, and then have them ready for us when we die. You know, each to their own. But I personally think there's more to life than just materialism. Can't remember why I went off on that. Anyway, continuing about grace. There are references to grace in Gurdjieff's writings. In Tao's, Beelzebub is redeemed not only by his labors alone, but also through the intercession of a divine messenger and the grace of his endlessness. And that, again, I think is very important. We must keep in connection with the higher realms, keep in connection with our higher self. We can send prayers up for those that can hear, the higher beings, whether it's our higher self, whether it's the angels, whether it's the divine source himself. You know, I like to speak a lot to, well, send my prayers to Archangel Michael and to the Christ, because I believe the Christ is in the etheric and he is listening for us and he is waiting for us to reach up to him. But whatever your faith or you're particularly into, maybe you're trying to get back in touch with your ancestors or something. But that's a belief in beings being in other realms, and that we will go to other realms. And then they will help us. So maybe grace doesn't just come from the divine source. Maybe grace can be given to us by the higher beings, like angels, archangels, our higher self and such like. But we have to work for it. Gurdjieff defined his own powers of telepathy and hypnotism as a grace of his inherency, and writes that man receives all his possibilities from on high. And if we remember that Gurdjieff, he was a hypnotist for a while and used it to help people. But at one stage, he renounced all that and realized he wanted to work upon himself and not use these extra special powers that he had, these, you know, these ESP type style powers. And that's how I feel a lot as well, also about this kind of work. I don't want to suddenly be able to develop, I suppose in the past, I've gone to classes where I've tried to learn how to sit in a circle and connect with the dead, or learn spiritual healing and things. I think that's all good stuff and it's helped me on my path. But now I'm trying to just work with myself and my abilities of developing myself. Araj says in relation to Tao's that because man can no longer fulfill his cosmic function, his life on earth exists now only by grace. So it's like, because we've taken ourselves out of the workings of the divine source, out of the natural laws of how the whole cosmos works. We seem to be cut off from all that. You know, why does the divine endlessness, or his divine endlessness, the divine source, why does it let us continue, us humans, us parasites on this planet, to live? By divine grace. You know, if we're a cog in the wheel, why is he letting us continue? There must be a reason why. We must be here to develop ourselves, and we must be here to hopefully help other humans develop themselves, so that at some point in the future, maybe all of humanity will be awake enough to be part of the evolution of this planet and of humanity. I know Gurdjieff talked about if we had 200 awakened men and women, then the planet and humanity could be saved. So there's always hope. And maybe that hope comes because we've been given the grace to continue. Bennett defines grace as waking up. This is J.G. Bennett. Bennett defines grace as waking up that is never deserved, and comments that to shock people into waking destroys something irreplaceably precious. You know, maybe that is right. Maybe some people are suddenly given a divine inspiration or a bit of divine grace when they're very much asleep but have potential. Or maybe everybody's given that chance, that opportunity at some point in their life, but they don't recognize it, and then they go back to sleep again. Hopefully you're awake enough to see it when you receive it. However, this is a variance with earlier Bennett writings, and so may be in accordance with new work ideas. Michel de Sorsman rejects the notions of charisma or psychoanalytic transference as explanations for the power to awaken others that emanated from Gurdjieff's presence. And what struck me about that, what got me thinking, was maybe when you're doing this Gurdjieff work, you can call to Gurdjieff and he will grace you with helping you along. I've often asked him for help in my understanding of his system. I know one time, and I've said this story before, I was making a video of one of the chapters of Beelzebub's Tales, and I kept feeling a tap into the back of my head. And then I looked up and I'd spelt Beelzebub wrong in the title. And I'd like to think that was Mr. Gurdjieff coming to give me a, do it properly, Debbie. But I think he's there for us if we call out to him, or Raj even. I remember C.S. Knott talking about a Raj coming to visit him after a Raj had died. And when a Raj appeared to him, it was just his face, and he had a beautiful halo all around him, and he looked so beautiful and happy. So he was, I believe, giving C.S. Knott some grace, some divine wisdom from afar. I actually have pictures of Gurdjieff up around my room. I like to look upon him now and then and ask him for help. Before I do these videos, I always have a little look at one of the pictures, the one that I have up there actually, and ask him, is it okay to do this? You know, and hopefully I've got your blessing. You know, I know I make a mess of some of these shows and I stumble on my words quite often, but it's more of trying to encourage you to connect with Mr. Gurdjieff and for you to connect with the work and yourself. That's why I make these little shows. And to encourage me to keep going, which I must admit, I normally do. I very rarely feel down about doing this kind of work. I sometimes find it difficult to push myself forward, even though we all have to take that first step. Some days I have to really force myself to sit down and do my sit-ins in the morning. But then I have to take a breath and wait for that I that's in me that wants to do this work, that can kick that I in me that doesn't want to do this work, you know, up the backside and say, come on, let's do this. Because we know it's for the better for ourselves and for the better of humanity and the better of the whole planet and the cosmos. And we're working to alleviate, you know, the sadness of his endlessness, of those that aren't doing this kind of work. And it makes the divine source God very sad to see people are turned away from him. But he can't reach out to them because he's given us free will to do what he wants. He has to wait for us to reach up to him. And then he gives us grace. So this little video was hoping to encourage you to go out there to continue your work, and may divine grace come your way, whether it comes from Mr. Gurdjieff himself, an archangel or an angel. We work upon ourselves, it will come to us. So thank you for watching. Blessed be to everyone and all, and see you next time. May 2024 bring us all joy, love, and lots of grace.